Hey everybody, welcome to Do You Believe on Paranormal Zone TV. I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. And for those of you who are new to the show, if you would please subscribe to my channel, I appreciate it. And guys, don't forget to give the show a like. Now tonight I'm really excited. I have Debra Pickman and Debra and Tony Pickman of the Sallie House. And I have Karissa Fleck of the Horsefly Chronicles. And this is welcome to the show, Debra and Tony and Karissa. Hey, thanks guys for joining me tonight. Joining us tonight.
Hi, thanks for hanging out with you, Noreen.
Oh, I'm really honored to have you guys on the show. I've been wanting to have you on for so long, and I'm really anxious to hear your story. And then also for Karissa Fleck, I've had her on the show several times, and if you don't know her story, she will be telling her story as well. Now, Karissa, do you mind if I start with the Pickmans first?
No, go ahead.
All right. Debra and Tony, would you please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself before we go into your haunting story?
Sure. You want to say it? You're very
I'm from New York, Buffalo, New York, to be more exact. And I, in a roundabout way, came to Kansas, and Tony and I met, about 22 years ago. We've been together ever since.
Mm-hmm.
And would you like to start telling your story of the Sallie House? How you got involved? How you even moved into that house? How did you find it?
It started out, we were in a bind. Deb was pregnant, and we were kind of needing a place that was a little bit bigger. The place we were renting before, they just wasn't going to work for us. So we were in a kind of a hurry to find a place, and my brother happened to live next to the Sallie House, my younger brother.
Although we didn't know it was the Sallie House at that time.
Didn't know anything about it. And he kind of knew the landlord and got us in there, and we went and checked it out, and it looked like really, like it was really going to work for us. But it wasn't a bad house, wasn't the best, but it was going to work fine for us.
It was actually quite cute, and it had a big yard. We thought we could grow our family there.
And when you moved in, were you able to look at the house and have a couple of days or whatever to think about before moving in, or were you just thought, oh gosh, this is the house, this is the one we want to go to?
Gosh, I can't remember. I think we took a day just to think about it, but we got in there pretty darn quick. I mean, to me it looked ideal. It had fresh paint and carpet, and it just looks really nice. And it had an open floor plan. And the house that we were coming from was very cramped. It didn't have a big kitchen. This one had a huge kitchen. So there were a lot of pluses to us moving in. So we were pretty excited.
Mm-hmm. And then when you moved in, when did things start happening in the house?
They probably started happening probably within a month, I'm going to say.
Little things,
we didn't realize it.
Yeah, little things like the lights blinking on and off. TV, you go to bed, TV might turn on and off. You have to go shut it back off like 5 times.
The stove alarms and the microwave timers, those kind of things, they would just go off periodically. We'd be sitting in the living room, had been for hours, and so we knew nobody had set the timers.
Did you think
it was just little things like this? We thought it was a lot of electrical problems.
So you had no idea. So did you know anything about the paranormal at that time?
I was aware of the paranormal because I had a big interest in it, actually, from when I was quite young. I had never had a paranormal experience, so.
Mm-hmm.
I knew about it. I really didn't follow it much. I never put much thought into it, really. I grew up pretty much a Irish Catholic, so, and, it was just something you didn't throw out, really talk about. You kind of knew it was in the background, but you just kind of left it there.
So when these things started happening, you didn't even have a clue that it could possibly be paranormal.
Well, it's not the first thing you think about.
Yeah, I think we spent most of our time just trying to rationalize everything, like Deb said, electrical problems. Because being renters, we really didn't know much about the house, so we didn't know. We were constantly checking with the landlord. Hey, we think we have electrical problems. Just anything we could rationalize.
Now, what would anything happen?
We moved in, and
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't catch what you said, Noreen.
Oh, no, honey, go ahead and finish. Go ahead and say what you want to say.
I was going to say I was pregnant when we moved in, and our firstborn was, he was born 6 months after we moved in. So until shortly after he was born, we really didn't have significant activity to speak of. So when we looked back after that point, that's when we realized that there was paranormal activity that we just weren't recognizing.
Mm. And
does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. Now, during the day, you would have electrical problems. Now, what about at nighttime when you guys went to sleep? Did anything happen at night? Did you hear things banging? Did they bother you when you were sleeping? Did anything happen at night?
That was probably, the first things that started at nighttime were some of the things I can recall was the TV. We'd turn the TV off to go up to bed and might have to make 5 trips. It would just keep turning back on. The lights would dim, like you had mood lighting, and it was an old house. It didn't have that type of lighting. And I remember the ceiling lights in the living room they had little chains with little wooden balls on them, and we would glance up every once in a while, and you would see them start to swing, and it would get really fast and then just stop. A couple of times we'd see it bounce like someone was underneath it, flicking it with their finger. And it was odd, but I think we still tried to rationalize that. I think then as it progressed, we would hear footsteps running up and down the steps. I would hear a girl giggling, or it sounded like several children giggling a couple times, but definitely the footsteps running up and down the house.
He kept thinking these cats are going to drive me nuts. They're not letting me sleep, so he would stand at the top of the steps ready to grab one of them.
Yeah, I basically set a trap one night. I'm going to catch this cat running up the stairs. And as it did, I heard this giggle as it went past me. I got this real cold feeling, and I heard a giggle. And that was probably one of the first times it really freaked me out. Wow, it's not a cat.
Was that before we realized what was going on?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's hard to recall sometimes. I mean, that's like 20 years old, or 20 years ago that all this happened. So sometimes talking about the details, the recollection isn't the best. Sometimes I have to revert to the website or my book when I'm thinking of the situation.
Do you think that was the first incident that you started thinking that it's possible your house was haunted?
That was, it sparked a little interest in me. I mean, for a quick thought, I thought, man, I wonder if that could have been a ghost. But then as quick as that thought came, it went away. And probably the first time that we really
was when all the bears in the nursery were put in the middle of the floor. It was, my sister had been up. We had been having a lot of problems with our newborn, trying to sleep through the night. and we were, I swear to God, we were the most tired parents there were, because we were like up every hour on the hour, and the baby should have settled into some type of a schedule, and he hadn't. So our days and nights weren't easy at all. And my sister came up. She had just had her little girl probably a year earlier, 9 months earlier. And so she came up to help us out because she knew how distraught we were. And it was her last day. She would come up for a week and stayed, and it was her last day. And that's when the whole realization came to all three of us that we had a ghost in the house. When we came home from Tony's parents on the last evening, we'd gotten, movies we had rented, and we figured we were going to have, a real nice evening, just relax, nowhere to go, nothing to really do. We were just going to watch movies and chill out.
And you know what? We're having issues with audio right now.
I can hear that.
Yeah, I can too.
I don't know where it's coming from.
That's weird.
Do you hear it?
There's nothing changing on our end.
It's getting
I
louder.
hear it.
Yeah, it is.
I'm not doing it. It's weird.
Oh, that's really weird.
I think it's coming from Debra and Tony because their box is blue.
Because our
In Skype, when the person's talking, there's a little blue box that comes around, so it's coming from your end. Don't worry, earlier on my end, shadow people were like, walk by.
Maybe that's why the dogs get...
well, now it's easing up.
It's starting to ease away now. That's really strange. So that's when you finally discovered or assumed that your house was haunted. Now, this 7-year-old little girl, what happened? How did you find out anything about this 7-year-old little girl that was in your house? How did you take care of that? Did you investigate it? Did you check your property out? Did you ask the former owners?
We tried.
When the incident with the bears happened, it had us so it caused a lot of anxiety, and reaching out to one of his brothers, he got in contact with his boss's. I'm sorry. His boss's sister was originally from town. She was a psychic who had since moved to California. She was coming in for a visit to her family, and we were put in contact with her. And she came over, and that's where we got a lot of information about this little girl being 7 years old. Her name was Sallie. She liked to play with the baby, and how we were supposed to handle the experiences, how to deal with this spirit child. And it was shortly after that she contacted us, and she gave lectures in California at some of the universities, and her audience was made up of not just the students there, but people who were connected to television, and they were bombarding her with, how do we get in touch with this couple, because they found our pictures and what we were claiming so interesting. They wanted to get in touch with us, and Barbara was a sweetheart. She did not disclose our information. In fact, even when she talked about us, it was very anonymously put. But she did call us eventually and say, look, I've got, this and this person or group wanting to get a hold of you. And she explained what it would be like getting a hold of.
She said it was going to be a circus act.
Yeah.
She said the media is going to heat this up, so...
But they'll try and help you out. They're, really interested. She suggested going with the smallest group there, because then there wouldn't be, truckloads of camera people and equipment and stuff. We wouldn't be such an eyesore in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we had gotten in contact with sightings.
All right,
That's
so
how they got involved.
Okay, so at this point then it was a 7-year-old girl and Sallie. Did she pick up any other spirits that were in the house?
I don't believe she did she?
No, she picked up. She did. She picked up on an older figure, but she couldn't get any information on it. There was nothing was coming through to her. She figured it was like her mother or something.
Or did these hauntings escalate?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so from the 7-year-old little girl and from the lights going on and off, what started happening then?
We started. There were spontaneous fires. There was. I could feel like a rush of cold air running past me on the stairs.
And something going up and down the steps increased. We would wake up in the morning, and as we come down the steps, all the pictures we had hanging on the wall would be turned upside down. We had candles that were still wrapped in plastic.
Having cats in the house, we didn't actually light candles or fires or anything like that.
But the candles would be like they had been lit, but underneath the plastic.
In fact, they were dripped down. Hey, guys. The wax on the candles would actually drip up towards the top of the candles, towards the tip. But the wick was still white. It had never been lit.
Oh my God! It would go up and not down. Oh gosh!
Right. And we had sightings. Each time they came, they brought in another type of investigator or somebody in the field that thought they could shed some light on some of the things. And one of the investigators, he was very skeptical of everything that had transpired, and he suggested that the candle could have been burned with a hairdryer or something like that. As soon as he left, that's what I tried to do. I got a couple more candles and tried different ways to hold the candle and melt the wax so that the wax would drip up the candle. But in no way was I able to recreate what I saw in that candle.
I think the things progressed. Every time sightings come up, they were a member of the crew. They would bring more people each time. It seemed like, because they go back and tell, you got to come see this, because things were happening to each member of the crew. And I think was it the final episode that the director came? Or
yeah, no, I don't think it was the final one. Tim White, the host of Sighting Show, found it so interesting that he left his TV desk there. That was the only place you ever saw him. You never saw him in any of the episodes that his crew went out on. He actually came on site and helped investigate or tried to make up his own mind about what was happening. And he came away saying there was something going on, and he wasn't quite sure how to define it. He was slightly baffled by it.
It was a little bit of everything. We had everything. It was kind of like the poltergeist,
haunting, moving things, scratching, the physical harm, fires.
So, at that point, did you maybe think, well, maybe we should check into the history of the house or the land to see why this was happening?
Oh yeah. Actually, we did. Right after Barbara Connor, the first psychic came, I went out the next day, and I and two other friends of mine combed the public library. I went page by page, through our little phone books, trying to find our address and then who lived there. I dove into so much information, and I've never researched anything before. So what I was finding as far as references was really interesting. We never could really narrow down a child that lived in the house, but the Finney family was very important to the house. They were doctors in town, and they were one of the first to own the house, or build the house.
Mm-hmm.
None of the history that we ran into, though, gave us any comfort.
Yeah, there was, several people had died in the house, but the records didn't tell how they died or
Died while
living there.
Yeah, not necessarily in the house.
Yeah.
So there's a story that goes around about the house and how this little girl came about, that the mother had brought her to the doctor and he put her on the table and said she had an appendix or something that needed to come out, and it burst and she died on the operating table.
Yeah. That was, I'm not even sure where that came from. I think it's just because the doctor had owned the house, and he kind of had he was
eccentric. But he had a practice downtown. The house itself is not set up where he would have even like a room that he could practice medicine in. So there's no way he would have had people coming to the house to treat, in a doctorly fashion.
He did own several houses on that same street.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually, he ended up, I think, with 5, didn't he?
I think it was more like 8. He was a big property owner in town. He was pretty prominent. But he was eccentric, too, from some of the news clippings that we did find. He actually entered himself and won female skating contest. So he was quite a character.
Then with these hauntings or getting darker and in your home, and I have a couple of pictures, Tony, of your attacks. I'm going to show the viewers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm showing a picture of your back. Do you have the computer on so you can see this?
Mm.
I can't get... We're not necessarily Skype savvy, and I'm not... No, we don't.
Okay.
I'm pretty much computer retarded, so...
Don't feel bad. That's okay. So I'm showing them these horrible... these awful scratches,
I think
Tony.
I know what picture you're talking about.
I've got 4 pictures that I'm showing, and they're on your stomach, they're on your back. Were these all different occasions? These scratches that you got on your body?
Well, I can't count how many occasions there were, but I know there were a couple. But there was, I think, in 2007. I'd gone back into the house with a group that was investigating, and that was probably one of the worst attacks I had. That's the one that pretty much knocked me out. I remember just coming to, and felt like something had me pinned to the floor, and one of our fellow investigators came in and started yelling, in the name of God, let him go. And finally released me, and we didn't hesitate to get outside. We sat in the car for a while because we didn't want to come home, nervous in front of the kids. And we went and sat for a while, and that's when I noticed I was burning everywhere. And by then we realized, well, if I'm burning, I'm probably scratched. And I remember lifting my shirt, and oh my God, I was covered from head to toe.
There were at least 50 some on one side of him, 38, 40 on the other, and his arms and calves, and it exists everywhere.
So that time it was from one attack, but yeah, there was too many to count, actually.
Do you remember what you were doing at that time when you were attacked?
Yeah, I do. Deb was in the master bedroom with a smudge stick. With me, and I had just basically walked in there. I had the camera, and I was just taking pictures. And I remember just walking in the room, and as soon as I hit the doorway, I started getting really, really nauseated and dizzy. Oh. And I remember telling Deb I need to get my bearings. I feel like I'm going to pass out. Next thing, I just remember being hit. And
so you were smudging, and it didn't like it.
I'm waking up.
You were smudging, and it didn't like it.
I was smudging. Another investigator was in the room around the corner. And Tony, when he had walked in the room, he was in the room just before me. And he had already felt nauseous. I don't think he told me, but I was standing at the window to his left, and it was more than just my peripheral vision. Out of the left side of my vision, I saw him, I mean, basically lift up about 6-8 inches and just fly to the wall. I mean, he hit so hard. Had I not seen it with my own eyes, I'm not sure I would have believed it.
It hit me hard enough to take me out of my boots. My boots stayed where it hit me, and I came out of my boots. So.
And then, yeah, his lace-up work boots.
So when you were attacked,
his phone.
when you were attacked, okay, so you had an attack. Would you only have that one time, or would you have another one later or earlier in the day?
It varied, Noreen. It would sometimes, in one day you could have several, then, one day one.
And he wasn't attacked more in the daytime or more in the nighttime.
It really got to where it didn't matter.
Yeah.
I remember some of my worst times were, I was working nights, so when I would come home and try to sleep, it got to be really horrible for me, because I would hear everything from scratching in the walls behind the bed to what would sound like 6 or 7 people trying to whisper to me at the same time, and it would get so loud. This all took place usually in the master bedroom. Those were the worst. Everything from I'd seen the apparition of a woman in the room. I'd seen the apparition of a girl. I'd seen the girl turn into something that I can't even describe. The room. There was a time when it felt like World War III going on in there. I actually had the tables on each side of the bed. The drawers were slamming in and out on it. We had a tall boy dresser where the top part lifted up and spun and landed back down, and it still sends chills up and down my spine thinking of it. I had gotten so scared. I was trying to scream for Deb, but I couldn't. I couldn't get anything to come out. I was so scared.
Oh my God.
And I remember it just kind of. I felt pouring off the bed.
Did you connect any of this to the 7-year-old ghost Sallie?
That's why he.
I tried, and it just seemed unreal to me. It didn't seem like thing that a little 7-year-old girl would do. The only thing that I could myself attribute to her was one time laying on the floor downstairs, and Debra was upstairs. I can't even remember what you were doing, but I felt a sharp bite on the back of my thigh. And it just, ouch. I remember running upstairs, and
I was in the shower, and when I came out of the bathroom, he was standing there, and he dropped his drawers, turned around, and was showing me, like, just under his butt cheek, "She bit me," and he's yelling at me, "She bit me." And all I could do was stand there and laugh. It was so funny.
But I say that's one of the only things, because it looked like a child's bite mark.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't
our child didn't have teeth yet.
Yeah, it wasn't even,
and it
still
wasn't,
a baby.
Being under his butt cheek, it wasn't someplace that he could bite himself either. So, I mean, it wasn't, I knew he didn't do it. And we were under the impression that Sallie was trying to get his attention. And because he would not acknowledge her, this was one of the things that she would do to get his attention.
And this, by this time we were being told by psychics, that this little girl just, we were being told basically that she was there helping to take care, watch over the baby, and
treat her like your own.
She treat her like her own, and for some reason it just didn't feel right to me. I couldn't do that. I couldn't walk through the house. Deb could walk through and just talk to her like
I
she was
tried,
a little girl, and something about it just did not feel right to me, and I couldn't bring myself to do that. And I'm sure Deb probably thought, well, that's one reason you're having so much trouble is
I did, yeah.
you can't accept her. It just,
And that's why I stood there and laughed at him, because from my vantage point, everybody's telling me include this child in your daily activity and acknowledge her, and he wasn't. And what other way would a child try and get your attention, at that age, other than start getting physical?
and, when she'd be at work and I was home, I would have some really, whatever was there just felt really angry to me. It just, like it really wanted to cause harm, and I'm thinking, why would this little girl cut me or, scratch me or be so vicious with the things that I was going through, and I just couldn't accept that it was a little girl.
Did you feel at this point then that it was becoming more demonic, more extreme, there was more extreme negativity in the home?
I did, and I'll tell you, part of it was because of how I was becoming. There were times when it just didn't seem, I felt like somebody else was more or less taking me over. I was angry all the time, and for no reason when I was in the house, and it just got, there were several times, Deb would walk past me in the house, and I just wanted to reach out and hurt her. I mean, I got that quick, and it was almost I felt, I can't even explain it. It was almost a jealous hate for some reason.
So you feel that you were being
like
taken...
she was in the way. It felt like she was in the way of something. And I just wanted to get rid of her. And I had the really, really strong urges to do that when I was there. I would leave the house and I felt like a new person. And then you'd come back and this heavy, just kind of weird feeling would take over. So it was so hard to deal with.
Do you feel that little girl was jealous then of Debra?
Well, at this point, we, through some of the photographs that we had taken, we realized that there was more than one entity in the house, because there would be a major blur spot in one area of a picture, and then like a marbled batch of lights or something like that in another. I mean, they had shown up independently, and we thought that it was just one spirit. But when we got the pictures back and, there were two of these on one photo, we realized that there were two different entities or two different spirits.
And by this time, I had started seeing the apparition of another woman in the house. And whenever I would see her, things would get really nasty. She didn't seem like she was very nice woman.
So
kind of reminded me of the store owner off of Little House on the Prairie. That's the closest I remember she had a black dress. I can remember a brooch she had on.
Not a pretty woman.
And whenever I would see her, it would get really violent. And I was probably thinking more that if there was any jealousy, it was probably coming from her because, like I said, the way I was feeling, it didn't seem to be the thoughts of a little child.
So how long did this go on? How long were you living in the house, and how long was this going on in the house?
Just going on 2 years.
22 months.
Did you ever think about moving out?
Every day. I thought about it a lot. We went back and forth over it.
We had just spent, new baby, and we had just spent everything on not only moving into that house, there's costs involved in that, deposits for utilities, whatever, but also, new baby items, the car carrier and stroller. It all adds up, and we just did not have the funds to move again.
Yeah.
That was a huge factor.
And that's how it started. And
we thought it was livable at first, thinking this was a little 7-year-old girl. But as things progressed, it became, I didn't see it progress. The red flags that I should have seen, I didn't. And until I did see it, like, for God knows why, I finally realized that, we're in a dangerous situation.
It was, for me, it was, I always compare it to Little with the Sniper. It was, you woke up in the morning and you never knew what was going to happen. I didn't know, this thing had cut me, it pushed me, burned me. At the same time, I'm worried about that. I'm probably more worried about my baby. And now, because the baby can't communicate to me. I don't know if it's doing anything to the baby. We don't think so. It's never had a mark on it. But
when your child clings to you when you go to lay him down in his room, these things run through your head. And there were a couple times Tony came back down with the baby in hand and said, I just can't leave him in there.
Oh my God. At this point then, because it progressively got worse and Tony was affected and was getting attacked, Debra, did you feel like anything was happening to you? Was your personality changing? Did you feel that maybe you possibly had an attachment as well?
that's a good question.
No, actually, I had no physical harm, but as far as an attachment, that's very possible.
For me, she had an attachment. She took to this little girl like spirit, like it was her own.
And part of that is, the motherly instinct that kicked in because I had just given birth to my first child. But I was not, I got the good end of this whole deal, or the better end, I should say, and Tony got the worst end of it. I welcomed it with open arms, and I did not see it. The way it affected me was that it did not allow me to see or use my logical sense through all this. I'm a very logical, question-asking person, detail-oriented. And any other day, I would ask Tony, why or when or how or what he was doing, questions to try and determine what it was, if it was angry and lashing out at him, or I didn't ask questions. I just kind of blew him off, and that's.
It was almost as if for me, that she didn't care. But knowing what we know now, it's so obvious now that it was playing us against each other. Divide and conquer, basically.
Debra, how was your communication? Were you home every day? I guess you were home every day.
I was for the most part for about 6 weeks after the baby was born, and I think I went back to work part-time. So yeah, I was home most of the time, and I thought our communication was pretty good, except that I knew Tony was working midnights, which meant he got home real early in the morning and tried to sleep all during the day when everybody else is up and doing things. And because his wife and baby are downstairs, he thinks he should be downstairs, so he wasn't getting the sleep, not to mention the spirit interaction that was preventing him from getting a decent night's sleep. So he was running on zero as far as relaxation and the sleep that your mind needs. And I was thinking his mind was playing tricks on him for the most part, or that's what I was being led to believe.
Now, this little girl spirit, what was your contact with the spirit during the day? Were you talking to it all the time? Were you trying to communicate with it and get some answers?
I had actually set up, and this was shortly after. Well, might have been just before Barbara came. I'm trying to remember. I set up like a pad of paper with a box of crayons next to it, and I would write questions like, how old are you, or what's your favorite color, different things like that, one thing at a time, and I would leave it there for a couple of days to see if maybe she would answer me back. So
and that way I was trying to communicate with her. And I didn't talk to her a whole lot through the day. I was told to try and get her to engage, let her feel like she's helping with the baby or feeling important, so that she wouldn't try and do things with the baby on her own. So, if I was sitting down reading the baby a book, I would invite her over, and I would feel that cold on my knee,
Wow.
where I had patted my hands.
That audio is acting up again. It's getting really loud.
Yep.
Can you hear it?
Oh, sure can.
No, I'm on a show.
Oh, no, that was automatically off. Did one of you guys do something?
Karissa, did you do something? You
No.
clicked on your computer and it stopped.
I don't know. Maybe it was my feedback then.
Could
It says
be.
it's coming from them though.
All right. So Debra and Tony, did you try to get help from clergy or from anybody to get the house blessed to help you guys? Who did you bring in?
Sightings had brought several people in. I had talking to a priest that I'd grown up with this time, and I had finally gotten him to agree to come over. This was not long before we moved out. But he had a heart attack like a week before he was to come over and pass, so he never did get to make it over, and it wasn't long after that we
moved out.
moved out.
Sightings kept bringing, newer people. They brought Peter James in.
Yeah.
To try and help and communicate and try and figure out what was going on. They brought Carrie Gaynor in too. He was integral in that. The poltergeist case, the entity, the movie that was made.
Yeah.
And he was a really super guy, really big help for me anyway.
Yeah.
Did Barry Taft come in at all? Did he come into the Sallie House? Barry Taft, Dr. Barry Taft. I think he was partners at one time with Terry Gaynor.
Okay. Yeah. No, we did not see him. Now, whether I know sightings came in after we left, so I don't know if maybe they brought him in after, but we did not see him.
So when the priest couldn't come in to bless your house or whatever he was going to do, that's when you made your decision to move out?
No, it was actually more.
It was because of an incident that had happened. I had explained to her a few times that I wasn't myself in the house. I was, because I'd noticed it when I left the house, the difference in me when I come back. And I told her, I said, I can't help but feel that someone is going to get hurt. And I said, it feels like it's going to be you. And there was a day she had come home, and I was pretty shaken because I'd come to walk out of the master bedroom, and something pushed me from behind hard enough to knock me into. It felt like it was trying to knock me over the railing of the steps, and I remember hitting the railing. It broke out several of the rungs of the railing, and it was kind of my last straw. I just basically couldn't take it anymore, and I don't know if she read that in me or.
I don't know, something finally clicked, and I realized that it was a very dangerous situation that we were in, and it was something I should have realized a lot sooner. So I'm not really sure what triggered that, but we decided then and there that day that we needed to move, and it was the next day we were out looking.
Wow. When did you what made you come public with your story?
It was basically
Trying to get help
to
understand what was going on.
Because the paranormal just wasn't that out there like it is now back then. So it was really, coming from this small town, we fought like cats and dogs to, over coming out. I was really nervous about coming out with it. I told her I'm not going to, my parents worked hard. We have a really good name in our little town, and I didn't want to ruin any of that. And just we'd send our photos off. You know, we talked about it. I said, if you can send these photos off, make sure they're not an error that the developing place made or something. You know, I don't want to be called a liar or you know, something come out that looks like
It's going to be bad for his family's name. He comes from 8 children, and both his mom and dad had 13 and 14 siblings each. So they're pretty prominent in our little town of, 12,000. And I was going to say something, and I forgot what it was.
Now, obviously, that's okay. Obviously, your family found out about your story. How did the family treat you with knowing your story?
It's kind of, and still is today, it's kind of one of those.
You just don't talk about it.
Because I think it's because the way we were brought up, it was just you didn't talk about spirits or, you know, I went to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school, the whole bit, and it was just something they didn't want any part of, really, the paranormal. So unless I bring it up, they usually don't, and unless they bring it up, I don't. But, I mean, they never really...
We only had a little bit of flack, really, from some of the family. My family probably accepted it. They engaged with the information more so than Tony's family. But for the most part, we didn't have a bad time with it.
I know my mother was glad that we moved because, you know, she'd had a few things happen. My father had something happen that we didn't know about till after he... later on, my mother told me. It was a long time after.
And they were experiences in our house with what we were dealing with. But you know, even then, they didn't really speak about it. You know, we're kind of in the Bible Belt. You don't go there.
Mm-hmm. When you moved, did anything happen in your new house that you moved to?
It was really quiet for quite a while.
Probably about 11. Almost a year.
Yeah. And yeah.
And then just one night, her brother had come for a visit, and we were sitting down to dinner. And while we're sitting there eating, I felt that cold that I hadn't felt since leaving the house. And whenever I felt that cold, I knew that I was getting scratched somewhere. I was feeling it swirl around my stomach. And so I kind of lifted my shirt, and oh my God, there it was.
Oh no!
I had scratches. So I pulled her aside.
He had them across his wrists and up his arm too, and
I didn't know how your brother was going to take it, so I just remember pulling you aside and saying, "Hey, it's happening."
And I told him, the smudge stick is upstairs. You go up there, and with conviction, you tell this thing to get the hell out of your house. And it's not welcome. And I said, you mean it.
and I was really nervous. Because I remember the first person I contacted was Kerry Gaynor. I called him. I said, Kerry, what's going on? We don't even live there anymore. And he's like, yeah. He said, I was afraid of this. He was worried that it was a personal haunting. He said, this could follow you forever. He said it could die off. It could follow you forever. So it's been something that we've had to
deal with constantly. Well, okay, not constantly.
Oh no!
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten a lot better at dealing with it, and things are not near as severe because we've learned how to put up more protection. And for me personally, it's just my faith in God and trusting in Him that's helped me out the most.
Isn't there any kind of exorcism on you that can be done, Tony, to get rid of it?
I've had a few cleansings and things like that, but
it seems once you're attached to a dark haunting or a harmful haunting like this, you're always connected to it.
It's like you have a tie to it, so you better keep your guard up the rest of your life.
Oh,
That's it.
no.
Because if you don't, any way it can get in there, it's going to try. So it's just a matter of
I'm so
really,
sorry. That's horrible. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Well,
Uh,
we've gotten really good at recognizing when something's amiss, when there's a presence, a negative presence, and recognizing it and taking a step back from the chaos that we're seeing happen is it's the first step. It's the biggest step. It's like letting the air out of a hot air balloon. It dissipates everything and it just kind of goes away. So we've gotten really good. Within 24, 48 hours, we can defuse it. Whereas before, it would go on for weeks or, months.
oh my gosh. Have you thought about writing another book on your experiences now?
Yeah, because the first one is only based on the experiences we had in the house. Um, I, I've so Tony and I both really have stepped back from investigating or doing a whole lot with the paranormal for the last several years, basically because our boys, our youngest is graduating college with a master's right now.
Congratulations.
But our boys, their whole life has been wrapped up with mom and dad spending time with paranormal people. We'd have them over at the house, or we'd be going on investigations or conferences, or, they've always had this around, and we feel like we've slighted them over the years. So we're trying to be a little bit more available, more focused on them and interact with them so that they're not estranged from us. Our two youngest ones are 18 and 20,
mm-hmm.
and they just graduated high school last year, last year. So we've wanted to make these last couple of years count.
Yeah.
So
Has anybody ever advised you, because of the issues that Tony has, for you to stay away from anything to do with the paranormal, and especially paranormal investigating?
not necessarily, and it's unfortunate, but it's the dark or demonic, or I keep losing the word I want to use. It's those types of hauntings that tend to find us, tend to seek us out or drop in our laps.
And because of our experience, those are the type of people that
Reach out to us.
Yeah, for questions, and they saw our story and they're going through somewhat similar things, so they want to know how we dealt with it and deal with it, and so we were drawn to several of those type incidents. But
Hey, Karissa, are you still there?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Is there any Karissa? Now, so Tony and Debra, is there anything else you want to say about your particular haunting before I move on to Karissa?
No, I think you've got a good gist. Your listeners have probably a good gist of what we've experienced and dealt with.
yeah, it was a very smart haunting. That was new to me. I thought, you used to think a house was haunted by a ghost, and that was it. I didn't understand the whole smart haunting, demonic haunting, but it can really mess with every factor of your life. So
Tony has like a PTSD, PTSD, because of what he went through in the house there, and it follows you. What you've experienced makes you gun shy, and causes problems that you don't outwardly see, and people don't need to suffer in silence. So we try and make ourselves available. People can contact us through the website or text messaging, Facebook, to try and connect with someone who understands, and we're there.
And we'll be talking about, excuse me, your new project.
Yes.
That you and Karissa are starting. So Karissa, let's move on to Karissa now. Thank you, Tony and Debra. I'm going to move on to Karissa now. Karissa Fleck, would you please tell the viewers a little bit about yourself before we go into your surviving story? Uh-oh. Hold on, guys. That is too weird. Hold on. Karissa, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, that's so weird. Both
I don't know
of
what happened to
you
figure
went
it out.
down. Even Tony and Debra went down.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to get them back on too.
We're
We got
here.
it back.
Okay, it won't let me on video. I can't win. Why?
You were on video the whole time.
I know, as soon as it's my turn to speak, it goes off. Oh, can you see me?
Yeah, there's a picture of you. It's searching for your video. There you go. Okay. So
got
tell
it?
the viewers
See, I
about
can't
yourself.
see either one of you
I
guys.
see you guys now. Hi, I finally see you tonight.
Oh.
I have computer issues all the time.
I'm still trying to figure out how to see you guys' video.
No, you won't see me because I don't have it on.
Or Karissa.
You
All I
guys
can
can't
see
see
is-
me? I don't know.
No, can't see you.
All right, Karissa, would you?
Maybe you try to figure it out. I love how when it's my turn to speak, it goes out figures.
Karissa, would you tell the viewers about yourself, please?
I'm a psychic medium. I'm also a paranormal investigator. I've been able to see and communicate with the dead since I was a little kid. Growing up, I grew up in a Roman Catholic background. I tried to live a very average, normal life. I hid a lot of my abilities. I got made fun of a lot in elementary school because I went around saying that I saw a dead person and described it in detail about what I was seeing. Ever since then, after that, I moved, changed schools, and I just didn't talk about it. It's not something that I discussed. Like I said, average life, got good grades, ended up going to college, got married, and then I bought a farmhouse. I moved about an hour away. I had a mini stroke and a car accident around the same time, and I had to stop going to school. It was around that time my divorce kind of finalized as well, so I was going through a lot of life changes, and I was really far away from my family and friends. That house was very haunted. It was from the 1700s, 1776, I believe. And, I just started tuning into my abilities for the first time in a long time again. And that's when the interest of the paranormal peaked up. I don't know if it's a good thing or bad, but still learning. It was around that time I linked up with a local paranormal team. And at this point I was saying I was a sensitive. And I had been on a few cases with them. And then I got a phone call. And I'll never forget this day. It's the day my life really changed. And I haven't talked about this in so long. But I got a phone call, and it was from my team founder at the time. And he told me that he had a case, and it was a man who thought he was haunted. That's all he told me. He was testing me because at this point he kind of realized that I had more abilities than I was saying I had. So I hung up the phone and I went about my day. I didn't really think anything of it, to be honest with you, at first. Until I started noticing that I felt like I was being watched. But this is probably the first time I couldn't quite make out what was watching me. It's like it had a veil over itself and it was hiding from me. Now, growing up, I didn't really tune into my abilities, but it was always there and it was always very strong. So this was actually my first experience with that. And I remember that freaked me out a little bit. I just felt like I was being eyed up, and I can't explain it. Over the next few days, little things around my house started happening. The gas stove started turning on and off. I rescue animals besides doing the paranormal, and they were acting really weird. I remember finding my dogs and cats upstairs in the attic, crying, hissing. So I thought that was strange as well. I started noticing more shadows out of the corners of my eyes, walking past, and I still couldn't make out what was there, but I knew it was watching me, and it started to feel like it had a more not so nice intent, if that makes any sense. It's still hard to talk about. I mean, it never gets easier to talk about the time that goes on, but, that's when the nightmares started. And I remember every night I was having different scenarios, same entity, and I would wake up frozen. And that was my first go at sleep paralysis. And I wasn't getting much sleep. It was at the point where I was taking about 3 Benadryl a night to try to get some sleep, which is so unhealthy. No one do it. I don't recommend it. But, and it wasn't working. I was only getting a couple hours of sleep, even taking Benadryl, and still having those nightmares. And that's when the physical attack started. And I just want to make clear that I might have been raised Roman Catholic, but I didn't believe in the darker side of the paranormal or demonic entities at this point. I'd never experienced it, so I didn't believe in it. That's kind of just how I am. But I remember I was laying in bed, and I saw a green orb with my eyes. And when the green orb got to the center of my ceiling, my cat ran away hissing, and that's when I got sexually assaulted. I still don't like to talk about that at all. I never go in detail about that. I probably never will be comfortable going into detail about that. But I remember after that happened, I ran into my bathroom, and it sounds so strange, but I remember pouring holy water into my bathtub. For some reason, I had holy water in my bathroom. I was stocking up on everything at this point for protection. And I remember just dumping it. Something told me to just dump it in and get into there. And as soon as my skin hit that water, I got a bite mark and scratches that appeared and disappeared. And I remember being crawled up in a ball, pretty much just crying my eyes out, naked on my bathroom floor. And that's when I called my team founder at the time, and I told him what was going on. He didn't believe me. He probably thought that I was going crazy at this point. I almost thought that I was going crazy. So he told me to come over and try to get some sleep. So as soon as I walked in, he could tell that I was just disheveled, which is really not like me. It's not typical behavior for me. And I came in, and he told me at this point I was so tired, lack of eating, lack of sleep, lack of showering, like I wasn't able to function. It's almost, it sounds so extreme because, this time period, it's only 3 weeks. They didn't try to hide from me that much. Like 1 week it was like they were just watching me, the next week it was dreams, the next week I was getting attacked. They never really tried to hide themselves except for the first few days. And, as soon as I walked in, he told me that he smelled the smell of sulfur coming throughout his house, and he kept hearing knocking and banging. And I remember that was the first night I was finally able to get some sleep and rest. And this was all before I even walked into this client's home. That is now the case that I'm known for. I almost didn't go. Everyone told me not to go to the house. But I'm the type of person that if you push me, I kind of push back. I've always been like that, and I wish I could stop being like that sometimes, but I can't. It's just my nature. So I went anyway, even though I was scared. As soon as I walked into that house, I can't really explain it any other way than to say that the energy felt the same. It's like seeing a familiar face. You know it when you see it. And I walked in, and I remember telling Phil Syracusa, who's the homeowner, everything that I had experienced, and he just kind of looked at me with his jaw dropped because a lot of it was stuff that he was experiencing that he didn't tell anyone. And that's when I started telling him about the entities, the dreams that I was having and all of that. And yeah, it kind of formed a friendship from that point on, I guess. My team went through their investigation. I ended up getting really sick that night. I remember I just started feeling dizzy. And I went to the bathroom and I looked in the mirror, and my eyes were kind of turning black. Not fully, but they looked weird to me. And I remember walking out of that bathroom and not saying much. And that's when another medium on the team kind of grabbed me and escorted me outside. They saged me, they cleansed me, and as they were doing that, the van light in Phil's car turned on. Almost to say that, like, it's not over, if that makes any sense. And, I left, I rushed out after that, and I told Phil and his family that, I care about them, I'll help them from afar, but I will not be back in that house. At this point, the darker side of the paranormal is not anything I ever wanted to deal with, and I certainly didn't want to go through it again. But, I stayed in touch with them clearly online, and I started noticing that they were reaching out for help or just understanding of what was happening. And the mainstream paranormal community at the time wasn't really taking it serious. The people that could help just didn't believe in it. And that's when I decided to start slowly come back there and work with the family. And that led to me living in the case for 4 months.
4 months?
Yeah, I lived in the Horsefly Chronicles house for 4 months with the family documenting it.
At what point, how long did it, okay, so you already knew that the house was, because you had gone there, that the house was haunted.
Oh, yeah.
Was there a point when you believed that it was more demonic than possibly a negative, extreme negativity?
Noreen, I'm not going to lie to you. As soon as I got sexually assaulted in my own house, before I even went to that home, I knew that it was demonic. And that took me a lot to understand and grasp with, because I never believed in it. But I knew it before I went. And it sounds crazy, but for something to come to your house and assault you and attack you like that, it's pure evil. There's no other way to describe it than pure evil.
So what was happening to you in that house? What kind of evidence were you capturing for the family? And also, what was continually happening to you while you were living in that home?
You know, I'm not one to say that I was way in over my head. You know, I was new to the paranormal world. I had moved into this huge demonic case that I had no clue what I was getting myself into, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm honest about them, and I talk about them today. A lot of the times I was personally scared for my own life, but it's weird. It's almost like I had a past life connection to the whole family, and I just felt the need and desire to be there and to help, and I couldn't explain it. I still can't explain it today. I was just like, it was like I was chosen to be there. You know, it depended on the day, honestly. Some days nothing would happen, just footsteps and whispers, and then other days you wake up covered in bruises, bite marks, scratches. It really just depended. I didn't get sexually assaulted when I lived here, thank God. I went through it later on when we were trying to remove it, but that's a whole different story.
At Phil's house? You got sexually assaulted at Phil's house?
No. When we fast forwarding a little bit, we had gotten to the point where we felt comfortable that we had found the right people to go through with an exorcism of the house and himself. And unfortunately, leading up to that, a lot of very negative things happened in my life because I actually was the one that connected him to the person that was doing the exorcism. It was actually really bad, but that's months and months after I had moved out. When I lived there, you know, it was a lot of weird things. It's a mind trick. It plays tricks on your mind, and it's kind of like Debra and Tony brought up, where they felt like they were being pinned against each other. Demonic or negative hauntings definitely use your weaknesses and your mind to attack you. That was the most common thing. You know, you wake up. Well, I would wake up and I would just be so drained, depressed, and sad for no reason. And I just did not want to get out of bed. I would spend the whole day just in bed, and I had things that I had to do, but I couldn't move. It's like you're being glued and held down in that bed. My anxiety levels rose up through the roof. Not to mention, when the house breaks out in fights, it's bad. You know, everyone's going at each other's throats when we're normally all getting along very well. And that was the biggest thing for me, was the mind games. I think that's how they got me the most. I really felt like I wasn't myself a lot of the time that I was there living in that house for 4 months.
So, Phil had the house blessed?
Oh, yeah. We went through that whole thing. I mean, you know, we've had over 60 people here. You know, and it's just, we've tried blessings, we tried the exorcism. I think we went down every religious road at this point. Did
any of that work?
Maybe for a few days. And then it would come back, and that's kind of the whole Survivors of the Dark concept, is it's breaking that connection and that tie to that entity, which Debra and Tony also brought up. It's very hard to do that. Once you're marked, you know, I hate to say it haunts you for life in some way or another. I definitely suffer from a post-traumatic stress-like disorder from my time living in this house and my experiences living in this house. And, you know, I just hit the icing on the cake pretty much. Like, there was so much activity and so much documentation. I mean, I've gotten crazy evidence. I've had some of the best investigators in here. I've had some of the people you see on TV in here to help perform exorcisms or blessings. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, it just hasn't fully worked. Mm-hmm. I can't explain it, you know, but what was weird about this haunting is when I was living here, a lot of my friends and family were also being haunted and affected as well. I wasn't really telling them what I was doing because, coming from a Roman Catholic family, I don't think they would have approved of me living in a haunting at that time to help people. That's just not something you do. It's weird. But a lot of them started having a lot of bad things happening to them and bad luck waves. And once they finally found out what I was doing, they kind of clicked it together. I mean, I still can't. My logical side of my mind tries to debunk everything. But some of the stuff I can't. Because it would correlate with what was happening with me in the house. And I actually wrote down all my experiences in like a diary-like thing when I was living here, which eventually is going to be published. I'm just working the courage to do it, because there's a lot that I have not released to the public about this case, even though I've talked about it so much. It's one of those things that it's very personal, mm-hmm. and it's very hard to talk about. It's like every time you're talking about it, you're going through like therapy almost, if that makes sense.
Is it the house or is it somebody in the house?
It is Phil. When he was younger, he messed around with some things that he shouldn't have messed around with. And unfortunately, they stayed with him and his family. And everywhere he moves, they follow. However, for whatever reason, this house seems to be a stronghold on them. When they moved into this house is when they start having a lot of the problems. More of the problems.
I wonder why that house.
You know, that's interesting that you brought that up. We've had this really well-known medium who I'm not going to tell her name because, I mean, we don't talk to her anymore. You know, the thing about this case is that people that come into it, a lot of them just get affected so negatively, either physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and they just leave. And I can't blame them because I've been there too with this case. You know, you have to have a really strong mindset and stay grounded and all of that. But, you know, she said that sometimes the house picks you. For whatever reason, sometimes the house picks you, and it's like it had a stronghold on him, like it knew it would interact with the spirits around him and make things more active. So it's almost like she explained it like the spirits kind of picked the house for him and led him to that house.
Oh, very interesting. So what's happening now? Now you're moving back into the house again.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, we're doing a show Monday night on this, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we're doing a show on this. Okay, so you're moving back into the house. Phil hasn't gotten any help. It's still is it still as crazy as ever in his house?
Well, what had happened was, you know how the dark energy tries to break people apart? It really does. Friendships, relationships, it doesn't matter. It tries to destroy anything that might bring balance or happiness to you. You know, unfortunately, there was a time period when Phil and I just had stopped talking. We stopped working together, and I went my own separate way. I went and did some other things. Unfortunately, in that time I was gone, for whatever reason, the house got more active. And now I'm kind of moving back in to hopefully not only document it, because I am a paranormal investigator, that's what I do, but hopefully bring some more peace into the family's life again as well.
The evidence that you captured in Phil's house, now had Phil told you the history, or did you just go in there to find out your own evidence without being influenced in any way?
I didn't know anything from Phil, but I knew everything from what had visited me. And the time I spent in the house, the more and more I found out about it. Now, I've been on this case about 3 years now. It's like the never-ending case. You know, there's just been bits and pieces that I found out along the way through my psychic abilities. I've never asked him for any information on it, just because a lot of times people don't feel comfortable talking about the negative things they've done in their past, you know, I mean. But when I get a feeling or vibe about something, I'll ask him, and he's honest with me about it. But I never probe him for information. I never asked him details about things. It's just not my style.
Okay, so the case is still ongoing. You're moving back into the house, and that's a continuing involvement for you.
Yep.
All right.
Definitely
what?
Insane. Oh no, just it's definitely a wild case, and it takes its toll on you emotionally, physically, mentally.
Yes, I can imagine it does. Now, to the announcement that Debra and Tony and you want to make. First time, everybody, and it's on my show. You are the founders of Survivors of the Dark. Do you want to talk about this?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Who wants to start so we don't cut each other off?
Go ahead. You're on a roll.
I'm on a roll. All right. You know, I had them on my show. I actually talked to Tony because I read the Sallie House haunting while living in the Horsefly House case for the first time, when I was living in it the first time. And it's funny, I talked to him and asked him for advice. So I was one of those people that reached out and was like, hey, I'm in over my head, help. And he did. And, you know, a couple of years later, I decided to have both of them on my show. And we just clicked right away, the three of us. You know, it seemed like we were on the same page, and we were all about trying to find a positive in such negative situations and negative experiences that we had been through. And I don't even know who came up with it first. Someone came up with it on the show, guys. I don't remember which one of you it was. It was one of you.
Well, Tony said, yeah, there should be a group to help people like us.
Yep. And it was something that was lacking from the paranormal community. And after the show, we just linked together again and we talked. And it was pretty much like a couple days after we did the radio show that we decided, yeah, this is something that's missing in the paranormal community and something that needs to be done. I'll let you guys take over.
Well, there's just, I think it really hit home. One of the, big names in the paranormal community were Mark and Debbie Constantino. And we knew them, we were kind of close with them at times. Over the last year and a half or so, they had contacted us specifically because they were having some problems. And we didn't realize how bad those problems were. And I wish that we would have known that they were in trouble as much as they were, because maybe we could have done something to help. They obviously needed some outside perspective and consideration. And those of us who go into, haunted locations, often we do pick up attachments and we don't even realize it. And to have someone or some group available for situations, for people who are in situations like this, is, I think, paramount for healing.
Yeah, I'm sure it is, because I speak from experience. When our story came out, or when we were going through the worst of what we went through, it just wasn't out there. It just wasn't something you could reach out to. And I wished I'd had someone that I could have called or talked to, because it wasn't stuff that you could just go to your average Joe at work and talk about.
You feel very alone when you're going through it.
Yeah, you do.
And there's a lot of times you don't even recognize it. So if you can make a connection with somebody who can help you be aware of your situation and surroundings and what might be happening to you, then it's much more easier to rectify the situation and work on breaking that connection, or getting cleared from it.
And if somebody wants to reach out to you, where would they go? Are you going to have a website made up for this?
Yeah, I'm actually working on that now. I've been working on it forever. I'm so sorry, everyone, but I have been. I just went from Seattle to here. I'm all over the place, but I've been working on that slowly. We also have been working on a list of teams in every state that we feel are able to assist people in hauntings that we can't get out there, we can't help you with for whatever reason. And also you can contact us on either our personal Facebook pages or our Survivors of the Dark Facebook page through messaging.
So if somebody calls you up and say that they've had a horrible experience like either one of you have had, how do you go about helping them?
A lot of it, honestly, is friendship and connection. I think we all bring different things to the table. We all bring different experiences with our hauntings, and we all have different talents and gifts. For me, it's just being able to connect with people on that friendship level, and, if they're still going through it, help them find the assistance they need through the connections that I do have in the field. And that's my role, kind of, and I'll let everyone explain what they do.
I think Tony's and mine are very much based in our spiritual, our religious aspect. I'm very logical and proactive, and so that's probably my biggest bring to the table.
I think that, and I think too, from a marriage aspect.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't have any idea how much it takes out of your marriage, and how it will attack your marriage. It will attack everything that you love, and we've been through it, and we've really
we've survived it,
and it at times hasn't been easy. We've really had to work, and if we can help somebody, show them how we get through it, and maybe give them some tips, or just. For me, sometimes I remember back then just wishing I had somebody to talk to, and sometimes, just being able to let something off your shoulders can help a lot. So almost counselor type aspect, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
would be ours.
So
Also, putting them in touch with somebody that can help in ways that we cannot help. If they're looking for, someone to do an exorcism, we're not local to them. We're going to try and put them in touch with somebody that can do something that can be there in a way that we can't.
have you put your team together yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much what you see is us.
But I mean, as far as those that are going to join your team up to help these people, like for an exorcism or a cleansing.
Well,
We're
we're
working on that.
We're the main people. I mean, we both have the same connections. We both have different connections. They're great people in the paranormal community.
And we want to bring in other great people. We don't want to just, pick anybody here and there. We want to make sure that they have the same outlook and
Let
desire.
their hearts into it.
Yeah, that they have a real desire to help these people, and they're not going to leave them, high and dry like so many investigators, greed investigators that get into it for the thrill of things. They do more damage than anything else, and we don't want to create that kind of a connection where these people are going to be alone again.
This is more of a network of support and, saying, hey, we survived this, we're still surviving this, and you can too. And that's what this team is about, and that's how it's different than other teams. We're not just going around picking every single person, and, it doesn't really matter if you're known or you're not known. We're going around and we're going to pick the best of the best that we feel, like they mentioned, are actually going to help these people and be there for them as a pillar of support.
Well, right now,
As much as we are going to be there for, general people out there, people like, the Constantinos, they're well known in the paranormal. They needed help. And I don't think that they got the help that they need.
I don't think
it
they
doesn't
reached
matter
out.
If you're a celebrity out there, or, just, an every other day kind of person.
Yeah.
We're there to help anybody with, the anonymity. We're not going to share information. This is a personal. We're not going to be posting, all these different cases or people that we're helping. We're not going to post it on a website. This is all being done on a personal level.
This is for helping and making, for me anyway, like I can't speak for everyone, but for me, this is just turning a very negative point in my life into something positive and helping other people. Because I always figured there's got to be more why I went through this more than just the low level fame from the paranormal community. Like there's got to be a bigger reason. And for me, that reason is so I can reach more people and help them. And this is my way to do it.
I actually know a couple of people that do need help. Are you ready to help anybody now, or are you going to wait until the website's up?
I don't need a website to help people. Anyone can contact me or them, and we'll help them if we can. If we can't, I still have connections and networks, and so do they. It's not important. You don't have to wait for a website because that's if you
All right.
need
So,
help.
Karissa, how would somebody contact you?
Well, you can reach us through Survivors of the Dark. The
Okay,
Facebook
but you
page.
don't have a website yet.
No, we have a Facebook page with Messenger set up that we're all connected to 24/7. You can also reach me on my personal Facebook under Karissa Fleck. And I'm.
Tony and I are available in the same way. We're on Facebook as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and you do have a Facebook page as well, Survivors of the Dark.
Yes, and you can
Alright.
message us. One of us will answer. We actually have a survey set up, so it's kind of a saver that you can actually. I think you can click on it on this Facebook page, right, guys? You just worked on that, so
Should be able to, yes. I'll double check it just to be sure.
yeah. And you fill that out. Debra came up with that. She's awesome. She comes up with awesome ideas, and that's definitely something that helps us help you, so we know ahead of time what we can help you with and what we need to do for you.
All right, if you guys give me the permission, what I would like to do is take a snippet from the show tonight with your banner, with you guys talking about this project that you're putting together, and I will include your Facebook pages and your Survivor of the Dark Facebook pages the Sallie House website as well. And I will put a little video together, and so they have the information at least out there on YouTube right now.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
We would really appreciate that.
I would love that, Noreen. Thank you so much.
Okay, yeah, sure. I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, you can come down. Phil came downstairs. Sorry, everyone.
Did Phil wanna?
He's coming.
Phil, poor Phil. He's not a he's. Hi, how are you surviving, Phil?
How am I looking over here, right?
Oh, you're looking gorgeous, honey.
Oh, thank you, Noreen. You have a great show. Tony, Deborah, very nice to meet you. Incredible story. And I was listening to some of it upstairs. And a lot of the stuff that you said hits the mark because it validates to be true. It validates to be true because I live that kind of life. And a lot of the stuff that you say is validated the way I live it as well. And, you know, sometimes these entities don't leave you. They don't. I hate to say it, but they don't. However, sometimes the negative energy will suppress, but when you feed into it, if there's a fight, an argument, and then what it'll do is feed into that negative energy and it gets stronger. And what I teach people is to go for a walk, separate. And I want to explain this to you very carefully. Make believe that you see this energy floating in the air, right? And you or somebody else or you and your spouse are having an argument or whatever. That energy now that you see through your mind's eye gets stronger and it starts to gravitate towards 2 people, 3 people. And when it actually does that, it's getting a stronghold on you. And when that happens, the first thing it'll do is attack the mind. When it attacks the mind, I always say this, that demonic entities, whether you want to call them negative spirits, whatever you want to call it, is many, many steps ahead of us here in the physical world. Where our lifespan is 70, 80, maybe 90 years old, let's think about that entities have been around for tens of thousands and thousands of years. So the way they think and they comprehend is totally different than when we do. But I do know this, the mind is the first thing they go after. And when we try to communicate sometimes and say, give us a sign or a signal and show us that you're there, you know what? They don't care to do that. They'll do it on their watch. There's no time in the spiritual world. So whenever they feel like they want to take a stronghold because they want to cause problems within a person's life, they will do it. And then when they get stronger, they can do things, you know, slowly move furniture, the scratches, the imprints on somebody's flesh, and then it goes away. That is all true when they get stronger. Now, I am not a paranormal investigator. I'm not a psychic. I'm not a medium. But I'm a man that's haunted, and I could definitely explain this as a 40-year-old man how it works. Energy that floats through the air, because that's what it is, when it goes, some people say that orbs are dust particles, and you know what? 90% of them are dust particles. But the 10% are true. And when that actually happens in a haunting, that energy becomes what you don't see with the naked eye is a shadow. It's a shadow figure of an entity. And sometimes the surveillance equipment or whatever you want to use to detect it, a FLIR machine, which is incredible to use, that will pick up the shadow person, whether it's a male, female, demon. And then what it does from that point, it needs to gravitate towards our energy or an electrical current. And when it does that, it gets very dangerous in a home. Now, a lot of times when there's cases that are demonic, there could be either suicides or murders or things that we just can't explain. And we say, well, that person just went off the deep end. No, the truth really is that sometimes in a haunting, these entities can control the person's mind at will.
Well, they attack your mind.
Yes. So that's what I learned. And through the experiments that I've done in my own home, trying to understand it, and when you hear voices that come from absolutely nowhere, you say to yourself, is it hallucination, imagination? What could possibly, is it a frequency from somewhere else? But when it gets to the point where it's no longer a coincidence, but yet it's a fact, it's real. Demons are real. Ghosts, spirits, this is all real. This is not make-believe. And for those that say, oh, blah, 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 or debunk it, or, you know what I say to people that don't believe? It's okay. It's really okay. Because sometimes if you don't want to believe something, just walk away from it. don't try to feed into it too much because it can consume you. And for those that live this life, like yourself and myself, we're the teachers. So let's take one good thing out of it is that we can teach others that this is real and it's true. And
survival.
And the person with an open mind will understand it.
Excellent, Phil. Thank you. Is there anything else
You
you...
guys are swirling here, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering why the camera just is moving.
Thanks, Phil. Is there anything else you want to say about this project?
No, just I want to help people, and if you need help, just please reach out to one of the three of us, and that's all I have, guys. I don't know if you have anything else.
No, same.
Yeah,
We're
it
here.
In a nutshell. We're here. So.
And I'm just honored to be working alongside these great people. They're awesome people in the community, and the community needs this, so it's an honor to be a part of this project.
It is. I would agree.
And I am so honored to have you all on my show tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Noreen. And you got a surprise visitor.
Yeah. And if there's anything I can do for you through my broadcast, please let me know. I'm here
That
for
video
you.
sounds great.
I can help you any way, and when it comes to the broadcasting, I can help you. If you ever want to come on, to my show and I turn the show over to you, I've done that before. And you can have a whole show or talk to people yourself. I will be in the background, but I can put you up. Your Skype picture, by the way, is beautiful right now. So if you ever want to do that, just reach out to me and I'd be happy to do a broadcast for you.
That's great.
That'd
Thank
be
you so
awesome.
much.
Appreciate it.
What, Phil?
You're welcome.
Yeah, you can say, Phil wants to say one more thing, guys.
Okay.
Okay, I'm back. I want to say one more thing.
You can't get rid of him now,
I
Noreen.
want you to follow this because this is amazing evidence that's about to come forward. A friend of mine from back in the 90s, he was able to do the Ouija board blindfolded. And when he did that, he contacted a spirit that we both know. Now, a lot of people say that, well, the Ouija board is psychosomatic, and sometimes it can be, that's true. But when a man is blindfolded and can give you the answers from a spirit that's in the home, you can't debunk that. So what's about to happen, we just met up again. This is many, many years later, 20 years later, he was over here today, and we're going to do this again. And I want to prove it to the world that you could actually speak to something that you can't see.
Do you want to do it on my show?
That would be awesome.
Let me know. Just let me know.
This is going to be groundbreaking. And my friend says, look, now this is somebody who is the real deal. He just got out of prison in the sense that, he lived the New York life. And he's like, look, I'll tell it the way it is. I know my experiences. I know what I dealt with. I know what that Ouija board was about when I did it. Now, he says, well, how do you prove it to the world when you're just doing it? I says, live stream. That's just one way we can prove it. And I would most definitely do that on your show, Noreen, if you want.
Phil, my show is always... I'm always here for you. I am here to help anybody I can.
Great. So we're going to announce him on Sleepless Nights this Saturday night. We're going to do an interview with him over the radio, and then we'll contact you, Noreen, for future where he sees what you get, and then raise all the questions of debunking, because then what we're going to try to do, we're going to try and have that spirit in another person's home doing something, and he could be in the Horsefly home telling that person what's going on. Now, I believe you can't debunk that, can you?
No, I don't think so.
So I'm excited about it. I talked him into it. He's for it. We're going to take a lot of precautions because of things that were conjured up way back in the 90s. But I think that it's going to be one more step to proving that entities do exist. So I'll let you go, and once again, nice to meet everybody. Thank you.
I'll be talking with you, Phil.
Phil?
Oh, that's so crazy. Well, Debra and Tony, I'm so honored to have you on my show tonight. Thank you so much. And like I said, if there's anything I can do for you, please reach out to me. I am here, okay? anytime you want to broadcast your own speech or a show or anything that you want to bring to the public, I can set you up with that, okay?
Thank you. I
Thank
can't
you
tell
so
you what
much,
that
Mary.
means to
We
us.
appreciate that.
You're welcome. And Karissa, thank you so much for being on the show. And I will see you Monday night for another show.
Well, great to meet you, Noreen.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet both of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As well.
Thank you.
Talk to you later, Krista.
Bye. I'll talk to you guys next week or this week.
Good night. Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh gosh, that is so exciting. Well, we finally ended up having a show. And I want to thank Debra and Tony Pickman so much for being on the show tonight. It was such a pleasure and an honor to have them on. I've been wanting to have them on for a long time. And Karissa Fleck, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And this project that they're going to start is going to be absolutely, it's going to help so many people because people have reached out to me. And I can't help them. But I like to have the ability to refer people to, and actually I'm going to start adding that onto my website as well. So everyone, thank you so much for joining in tonight with me. Hope you enjoyed the show, and Karissa is coming back. She's going to talk more about the Horsefly Chronicles and what's happening, and bring us up to date as to what she's doing now with the Horsefly Chronicles case. And this, believe me, the Horsefly Chronicles is a very, very extreme, haunting, and a negativity. It is extreme, and I stand by that case, or else I wouldn't have had them on my channel. I've done 3 shows. Dave Spinks did the investigation part. He got unbelievable evidence that he didn't even know. And he captured that, and Phil was blown away. So I will bring Phil back. What he's talking about is going to be absolutely crazy awesome to see that done. And I'm here to help people, to bring their message to across on my broadcast. So that's what I like to do. And anyway, everybody, thanks so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. And guess what? Next Thursday, Jackie Barrett. She's a psychic, a clairvoyant. She's been on TV so many times. Now, I don't know if you saw that interview, but she did an interview she made friends with Ronnie DeFeo, and he really likes her, and he agreed to an interview with her. So she interviewed him, and they also have shown that on television. I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen it before, but she's been on TV many, many times, and she's going to talk about her interview with Ronnie DeFeo and also the Amityville murders. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm really excited about that show for next week. So I need to do shout outs so I can edit this show. Everybody, really thanks so much for being here. And my mods, to Dave Spinks, to Royce, and to Putty Tat. I don't know if Crystal was in or not tonight. And thanks so much, mods, for being here. I really appreciate it. I appreciated all the help. So can I do some shout outs now? But I gotta slow this down. Okay, so it's Carrie Y, Putty Tat, Meow Meow, Aaron Kemp, Margarita Horvath, Christine Walker, Mama Joe Buffalo, Miss Paula, Janice Bolt. Hope you're feeling better, Janice. The Unseen Scene, Pretty Paranormal, Tommy Roberts, Nancy Sopovita, Zoe Small, River Culver, Midnight Emirata, Justin L. Elias, thanks, honey, nice seeing you, Karaya Brown, Unique Sweet Annie, Sean Bodine, Jimmy Cortez, Royce, there's Royce, Anybody else want to shout out? Lully to be, and Andrew, oh God, now see your Cox. Okay, hold on. This went too fast now. Paulo Santos, Donna Puckett, Andrew Cox. Happy trucking, Andrew. Michelle Allen Phillips, Aaron Kemp, Willful Today. Anybody else want to shout out? There's still 105 left in here. David Coffin, River Culver. Anybody else? Griffin Corcoran. Griffin Corcoran. I did it right. I know I did. Anybody else? Donna Puckett. Anybody else want to shout out? There's still 105 watching. Anybody want to shout out? Chippateri. Anybody else? Oh, Kara, you're welcome. Anybody else want to shout out? We still now we got 106. So we had a nice full house tonight. I think it went to 121. It was really nice. Thanks everybody. Thank you so much for supporting my show. And don't forget, if you want to get on the mailing list, it's paranormalzone.tv, and go into the I think it's either the email. I think it's the email, and send me your email. And you can get on the list. So it's paranormalzone.tv. Anybody else want to shout out? We still have over 100 people. Anybody? Shelley Phillips. Oh, thank you, Sean. Anyway, it was Donna Gordon. It was a pleasure, really, to have the Pickmans on. They're quite private, and it was just, I felt honored to have them on. Jen L.L., Michael Allen Phillips. And okay, so I guess I'm going to say goodnight. Oh, I did Lily Villalobos. Anybody else? Did I miss anybody? Anita Ackerman. Did I miss anybody? There's still over 100 people. Anybody else want to shout out? Oh, thank you. Jenny H. Thomas Jones. TJ Jarrett? I don't know. Thomas Jones. Okay. D. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Okay. Deepeka Modi 101. You guys got to get more simple names. I'm really bad at pronunciations. Bunny's talking. Bunny, come here. Come on over here. Want to see Bunny? Come here, baby. Come here. Come on. Come on. Come here. Come here, sweetheart. Come up here. Come on, my baby. Come on, Bunny. Oh, yeah. Come on, Bunsies. Come on, Bunsies. Oh, the baby. Hello, baby. Here's my baby. One of them. I have 14 of them. Hello, baby. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Hi. Oh, it's a bunny. This is my talking kitty. She talks all the time. Say hi. Say hi to everybody. Anybody else need a shout out? There's still over 100 people if you want to shout out. Anyway, God, Easter is approaching us. It's Easter is this month too. She wants to get down. Okay, everybody, I'm going to say goodnight, and I'm going to go get something to eat and see what's going on in the political arena. Okay, Tiffany Twisted. Hello, honey. Okay, so see you next Thursday, okay? Don't forget, thank you so much for all your support. I love you guys. Have a great rest of the week and a great weekend. And I'll see you, Andrew Summers. And I'll see you on Thursday. Good show, Amityville Horror, okay? Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Good night. Love you guys. Thank you.